And Rachel Zegler, being 23 or whatever she is, like so many kids raised on TikTok, she's all for infantada is the only global solution. So the two stars hate each other.
She's an asshole. So she came out and took a large dump on half of the country.
Every way that Disney changed the story, it changed it for the worse.
I wanted my money back. It was very disappointing.
Hello, Disney, you're gonna have to redo your film again because this woman is a pig and you fired Gina Carano for far less than this nonsense.
You didn't hire a big name actress in the lead, right? Nobody knows who the hell Rachel Zegler is.
They are pretending like Rachel Zegler is the first of them all when she looks like Lord Farquaad in the film.
It bombed its opening weekend at the box office and is on pace to be the biggest Disney live-action flop that they've ever seen.
They're leaning into woke. Hardcore.
They're petrified of some kind of backlash.
So, picture this. You're given the chance to reimagine one of the most cherished films of all time, and somehow, it turns into a full-on disaster. We're not talking about a mild disappointment. This was a train wreck that left fans shaking their heads in theaters barely filled. And who's in the middle of all this chaos? Rachel Zegler. Now, I don't want to knock her completely, but let's just say she brought more sizzle than substance to the role. Disney thought it'd be a good idea to hand her the keys to this remake, and let's just say their bold new direction didn't exactly go as planned. The movie crashed so hard, it was almost impressive. And trust me, it only spirals downhill from here.
163,000 rating, of which it got 1.6, not out of 5. Like, you know, sometimes you go to McDonald's, it's 1.6 out of 5. 1.6 out of 10.
Vinny, you know what that
bad is that?
So, here's the thing. Disney thought they were onto something big. They went all in, banking on a massive $150 million opening weekend, hoping that nostalgia would work its magic, along with Rachel Zegler's so-called star power to pack the theaters. Sounds like a solid plan, right? But reality? Yeah, reality hit them like a ton of bricks. Instead of breaking records, they got hit with a sad, embarrassing $43 million at the US box office. Ouch. That's not just a flop, that's like a full-blown disaster. Fans? Yeah, they stayed far, far away. Theaters were practically empty, and it was so quiet you could hear a pin drop. Barely anyone even bothered to get tickets. So, what went wrong? Well, it wasn't just about the changes to the story. Sure, that definitely didn't help, but a huge part of the problem was Rachel Zegler herself. Her tone-deaf, downright rude behavior pushed fans right out the door. During interviews back in 2022, she didn't just say she wasn't a fan of the 1937. She openly mocked it, calling it weird and outdated. And guess what? Fans didn't forget that, and they sure didn't forgive her for it.
And if you disagree with this sentiment, just hit the unfollow button.
I was scared of the original cartoon. I think I watched it once and then I never picked it up again.
And, as if things weren't bad enough, Rachel took it to another level. She acted like she was too good for the role, like being in a beloved Disney classic was some kind of step down for her. As if that wasn't cringy enough, she somehow made it worse. In 2024, just when you thought the backlash couldn't get any uglier, Rachel dove headfirst into controversy again with a political rant about Trump. Instead of backing down or trying to calm the storm, she just added more fuel to the fire. Instead of winning people back, she pushed them away even harder, especially at a time when Disney needed anything to turn things around. And let's just say, this fallout didn't quietly fade away. Oh no, it only got louder and messier from there.
The original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her. Yeah. Weird. Super weird. So we didn't do that this time.
And then, boom, the backlash hit a whole new level. Megyn Kelly didn't hold back, calling out Rachel straight up, saying, "Fire this brat, ouch." The calls to boycott the movie started spreading across X, formerly Twitter, like wildfire, and people were all over it. Rachel's entitled vibe turned her into a walking red flag for anyone looking to see the movie. One fan perfectly captured the mood with a tweet, "She's the reason I'm skipping it." And guess what? They weren't alone. It felt like the frustration was everywhere. Fans were done. Disney had put all its chips on Rachel's woke appeal, hoping it would pack theaters. But instead, it backfired spectacularly, costing them millions and turning what was supposed to be a dream project into a full-blown disaster. And trust me, the fallout didn't end there. It only kept getting worse.
made Trump supporters and Trump himself never know peace. What the F?
Here's the real kicker. Disney didn't just put out another Snow White. Oh no, they completely reshaped it, pushing an agenda that nobody was asking for. The original from 1937, it's a masterpiece, a magical tale with a princess who's pure-hearted, a prince who's brave, and dwarfs who'll go down in history. It had everything people loved, and it didn't need to be touched. No reboots, no reimagining, just pure, classic storytelling. But then, we got the 2025 version, and let me tell you, it's almost unrecognizable. What was once a heartwarming fairy tale is now a preachy, over-the-top version that barely even resembles the story we all know and love. For those who've been fans for decades, yeah, it felt like a real betrayal. And hold on, because what happens next, it's even more insane.
So you're not spending a lot of money on the actors. The special effects are trash. Where's the money going? How is it? What are you spending it on?
So, how did things spiral this far out of control? Honestly, Rachel Zegler pretty much gave us a preview of the chaos way back in 2022. During one interview, she straight up boasted, "We didn't do that love story crap, it's about her fighting her own battles." Like, wow, no hesitation. Just completely brushed off one of the most beloved parts of the entire story. In that one moment, she threw away everything that made Snow White feel like a fairy tale. The charm, the romance, the whole dreamy vibe that made it a classic in the first place. And yeah, fans weren't exactly clapping for that. They saw it as a major slap to what made the original so special, and they definitely didn't keep quiet about it.
And then they couldn't put dwarfs because this is just so typical of the left. The progressives always think the most progressive thing would be get people jobs, and dwarfs want to work.
Rachel didn't just criticize the original, she practically grinned about it, as if she were doing the world a huge favor by updating this old, broken story. It was painfully obvious. She had zero respect for the magic of the original, the characters who made it special, or the fans who grew up with it. And don't even get me started on the prince. That once charming hero who played such a huge role in the original, yeah, they totally tossed him aside. He was reduced to almost nothing, this forgettable character who seemed to serve no real purpose, totally sidelined, as if his importance in the story didn't matter anymore. This was a slap in the face to everything fans loved about the classic tale, and trust me, they weren't blind to it. And if you think that's bad, just wait, there's more to this disaster.
Prince Charming in the traditional fairy tale and in the 1937 movie has been replaced by...
Oh, and the prince wasn't the only one who got the short end of the stick. Even the evil queen, you know, one of Disney's most iconic villains, got completely nerfed. Her obsession with being the fairest of them all, gone. Instead, they turned her into this watered-down, generic villain fighting for... what, exactly? Power? Relevance? Who knows? The whole motive was so vague, it was hard to care. Disney's top execs went full steam ahead with their modern twist, but in doing that, they gutted everything people loved about the original. The romance, the wonder, the emotional depth, all of it gone. And let's talk about those new songs for a second. Yikes. The music? Total disaster. One of the lines literally goes, "All you have to do is make your wish come true." That's it. That's the deep, meaningful lyric we're supposed to connect with now? Meanwhile, the original gave us classics like Hi Ho and Someday My Prince Will Come songs that lived rent-free in people's heads for decades. The remake soundtrack? It felt rushed, soulless, and honestly, kind of like they didn't even care. But hold on, because what one of those songs actually sounds like. You're not ready for this.
It's got extra musical numbers that are incredibly unnecessary that really add to that runtime, and let me go ahead and let you know that they're absolutely f***ing atrocious.
So, one of the big highlight songs in this remake, it's called Mirror's Lie, and oh man, what a buzzkill. Picture this, instead of a powerful, spine-tingling villain anthem, you get a long, gloomy monologue set to music. It's basically the evil queen having a drawn-out therapy session with her reflection. Even Gal Gadot's voice couldn't rescue it, and she's Wonder Woman. Over on YouTube, fans went in hard. One comment that shot to the top just said, "What is this garbage? Brutal." Another person nailed it with, "Snow White's supposed to be a musical, not a lecture hall." And honestly, they weren't wrong. But was Rachel Zegler bothered? Not even a little. Back in 2023, she was hyping these new tracks like they were Grammy material, proudly calling them modern, not corny. Like she genuinely believed the original Disney songs, the ones millions grew up loving, were outdated cringe. Even critics couldn't sugarcoat it. The new songs weren't just forgettable, they clashed with the vibe of the story. Too heavy, way too preachy, and zero joy. No one's singing these in the car. No TikTok dance trends, just nothing. And yeah, the audience reactions? Buckle up, it gets even messier from here.
We're going, we need to no, you don't. It's not your job. Your job is to entertain. You are paid to entertain. That's what this is. Also, it's very disturbing.
All right, let's talk about the music for a second, and I use the word music lightly. These new songs, completely forgettable, like Blink, and you've already forgotten the melody, and the tone of the whole film? It's like Disney handed someone a checklist titled How to Make a Woke Movie and said, go nuts. Now don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with updating stories or empowering characters, but this wasn't empowerment. This was a full-blown lecture disguised as a fairy tale. Instead of feeling inspired, you just feel exhausted. And the biggest victims? The men. Yikes. The prince, who was once a charming, heroic part of the original now, he's basically an unpaid extra. No personality, no chemistry, just standing there. And believe it or not, Rachel Zegler actually called him a stalker in a 2022 interview. Yup, and what did Disney do? Nothing. They didn't clarify or course correct, they just ran with it. Like, yeah, sure, let's make the prince creepy now, why not? And don't even get me started on the dwarves. Those iconic, lovable characters with personalities that kids have remembered for generations, gone. Replaced with generic workers who look like they wandered in from a Whole Foods break room, and instead of charm or humor, they just get lectured by Snow White on inner strength. I mean, come on. At this point, it's less of a fairy tale and more of a TED Talk. And buckle up, because the train wreck, it's still not done derailing.
Now you wash the dishes, you tidy up the room, you clean those cobwebs, and he'll use the broom. Whistle while you work, and cheerfully together we can tidy up the place.
In the original Snow White, she cleans the cottage after woodland animals take her there. When she learns the 7 dwarves live there, she offers to cook and clean the place for them as a sign of her gratitude. But in this one, she breaks in and then forces the dwarves to clean for her. So clearly the Barbie screenwriter they hired to write this film thinks that this is a clever kind of role reversal. Funny that making a feminist version of a character always means, in practice, just turning her into an unpleasant, unlikable nag.
The modern empowered Snow White won't even allow domestic labor carried out by herself. Instead, she orders the dwarves to tidy up themselves, even when they've had a hard day down the mine.
It's their house.
But it's so obvious now because of the blight of intersectionality that's spread throughout our entire society that we can't have a woman holding a broom. Not that Rachel Zegler would know what to do with a broom other than fly.
You really have to ask, where did the soul of this story go? This new version doesn't whisper it, it shouts that men are the issue. And leading that charge, Rachel Zegler, loud and proud. Every time she spoke about the film, she made it crystal clear. This isn't about love, it's not about a prince, it's about her and only her. She didn't just rewrite the narrative, she trashed the old one like it was something to be embarrassed by, as if the classic tale, beloved for nearly a century, was outdated simply because it involved a rescue. And fans weren't quiet about it, they were livid. What happened to romance? To connection? To the idea that love and bravery can go hand in hand? All of that gone. In its place, wall-to-wall girl boss slogans and barely a sprinkle of real fairy tale charm. The whole thing felt like a lecture in disguise, not a magical escape, but a message-driven reboot no one asked for. And as you might expect, the backlash didn't slow down, not one bit.
People know her name because they know her as that annoying, loudmouth feminist actress who worked hard for 2 years to tank her own.
So what did Disney do next? They scrapped the dwarfs entirely and replaced them with CGI magical creatures. Their pitch? Something about unity and enchantment. But in reality, it looked like a bunch of glowing extras pulled from a bargain bin fantasy game. And here's where it really went off the rails. Instead of Snow White rolling up her sleeves like in the original, these oddball creatures took over all the work, cooking, cleaning, everything, while she just stood around like she was already crowned queen. But Disney wasn't done tinkering. By 2024, they were back at it with reshoots. This time, a total overhaul. Now the magical creatures were a diverse outlaw crew. Same chores, different costumes. And Snow White? Still doing nothing. The image of the humble, hardworking princess was gone. In her place, a demanding leader who let everyone else carry the weight. And the final version of these new characters? A visual mess, confusing, overdone, and utterly lacking the charm of the original dwarfs. It wasn't magical, it was a technical and creative flop.
You're progressive in one way, but you're still making that f***ing backward story of 7 dwarves living in a cave. What the f*** are you doing, man?
It's a bad thing. I'm not agreeing with it. One, because what they're doing is pretty much you're replacing jobs that people could have as little people. Okay. Snow White and the 7 dwarfs, it's 4 dwarfs.
The result? A total box office disaster. Audiences didn't just skip the film, they avoided it. Entire families stayed home, and theaters were left half empty. Opening weekend should have been magical little kids dressed as princesses, parents reliving the charm of a timeless classic. Instead, silence. No buzz, no excitement, just an overwhelming sense of meh. That opening weekend total, a measly $87.3 million, ouch. Nowhere near the $150 million Disney needed just to cover costs. It wasn't just disappointing, it was embarrassing. Disney had banked on a guaranteed hit, but instead, they got a wake-up call in the form of empty seats and furious fans.
For a movie that they spent well over $300 million on, that needed at least, at a bare minimum, even if you take every positive assumption you could, somewhere between $800 million and possibly up to $1 billion at the box office to break even.
Let's break down the numbers, and trust me, they're brutal. Once you factor in marketing and promo, Disney's total losses could hit a jaw-dropping $150 million. And right in the center of this storm, Rachel Zegler. Her attitude rubbed fans the wrong way from day one. Constantly criticizing the original Snow White, mocking its legacy, and then that infamous Trump rant? That was the final nail in the coffin. Fans were done. What was supposed to feel like a reimagined classic turned into a full-blown agenda push. Parents felt alienated, dads felt erased, and the warmth of the original, completely gone. Disney's internal numbers showed it. 60% fewer families came out compared to Cinderella's remake. That's not just bad, that's catastrophic. Zegler's too cool for fairy tales vibe didn't help. Instead of uplifting the story, her energy turned people away. The result? A film with no joy, no spark, and no audience. It barely clawed its way to $87 million, a far cry from the $150 million just to break even. Disney gambled on nostalgia and lost hard. Behind the scenes, rumors say it's full-blown panic mode. Executives are scrambling, layoffs are looming, remake projects are being shelved. This flop rocked the studio's confidence. The stock even dropped 3% post-release. And as for Zegler, she's become radioactive. There's already talk she's out of Hunger Games, 2 if it even happens. Her once promising career, now reduced to memes and online backlash. She had potential, but the attitude, the missteps, it's all caught up to her. Could Disney have saved this? Maybe. But pairing Zegler's arrogance with a preachy, soulless rewrite, that combo sunk everything. The dwarfs? Unrecognizable. The music? Dope. The magic? Gone. So, where do we go from here? Will Disney finally stop tampering with its classics? Or are we stuck watching them fumble again and again? One thing's for sure, this wasn't just a flop, it was a warning. What do you think? Could any of this have been saved? Drop your thoughts in the comments and don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you in the next video.